Today, we would like to address an aviation incident that goes beyond an unexpected tragedy. It is a murder motivated by the greed of an airline. This calamity not only claimed the lives of hundreds of innocent passengers but also left grieving families without even the bodies of their loved ones. The crash site was a swamp infested with thousands of crocodiles and venomous snakes, making the recovery of any victims remains impossible. While airplanes are generally considered one of the safest means of transportation in the world, it is understandable that thoughts of accidents, such as engine failures mid-flight or collisions between aircraft, quicken our hearts. In these situations, many of us turn to prayer before embarking on our journeys. However, when an airline neglects proper maintenance in pursuit of cost-cutting, resulting in the loss of hundreds of lives, it is not just an accident but a true murder for the affected families. The passenger plane involved in this tragic event, identified as 904 VJ and operated by the McDonald's company, was approximately 27 years old. After serving Delta Airlines for 23 years, it was retired and resold to the McDonald's company. In 1993, the Val Lejet company acquired the aircraft and reintegrated it for passenger flights. Founded in 1992, Val Lejet gained notoriety for acquiring old and low-cost aircraft, using them in commercial flights. However, its reputation was tarnished due to an excessive pursuit of economy, resulting in inadequate maintenance and insufficient training for its staff. In 1995, the United States military banned its soldiers from traveling with this airline due to safety concerns. On May 11, 1996, at Miami International Airport, Val Lejet Flight 592 was about to take off from William B. Hartsfield International Airport in Atlanta, Georgia. With 5 crew members and 105 passengers on board, the plane had already experienced a series of previous issues, including emergency landings and flight cancellations. Despite these warnings, Val Lejet continued to operate the aircraft, aiming to cut costs. On the day of the incident, the plane was loaded with 1,864 kilograms of passenger baggage and additional cargo, including 5 containers labeled as oxygen cylinders. These containers contained approximately 144 chemical oxygen generators, each about the size of a tennis ball. It is important to note that these oxygen generators had expired some time ago. Chemical oxygen generators are devices that release oxygen through a chemical reaction, and the aircraft's cargo compartment is completely sealed to prevent the entry of oxygen from the external environment. This is crucial to prevent fires in the cargo compartment, as the absence of oxygen prevents combustion. However, as the generators were expired, they posed a serious risk to the aircraft's safety. The fire in the cargo compartment, triggered by the unintentional activation of an oxygen generator, could extinguish rapidly due to the absence of oxygen. The lack of smoke detectors in these aircraft was justified by this characteristic. Around 1:40 in the afternoon, during takeoff, one of the oxygen generators in the cargo compartment was accidentally activated, generating significant heat due to the chemical reactions involved in its gradual release of oxygen. Even without external oxygen entering the cargo compartment, the generators continued to release oxygen, increasing the risk of an imminent fire. The pilot, unaware of this situation, proceeded with takeoff after obtaining permission from the control tower around 2:03 p.m. During takeoff, the oxygen generators, already on fire in the cargo compartment, spread the flames to other stored cargo, and the presence of flammable tires quickly intensified the fire. After approximately 1 minute on the runway, the aircraft finally took off. The pilot still had no awareness of the disaster in the cargo compartment. However, a few minutes after takeoff, a smell of smoke and signs of fire began to spread through the passenger cabin. Smoke slowly invaded when suddenly, due to the fire, one of the stored tires in the cargo compartment exploded with a loud bang. The fire continued to spread through the passenger cabin, affecting the aircraft's electrical systems. A flight attendant hurried to the cockpit and alerted the pilot about the fire. The first officer immediately communicated with the Miami Air Traffic Control (ATC) tower, providing details about the emergency. Given the severity of the situation, the ATC tower authorized Val Lejet Flight 592 to land at Miami Airport. The pilot was instructed to turn the aircraft to a heading of 270 degrees and return to the airport. In an attempt to reduce altitude, Pilot Candy Club tried to decrease the power of the engine but found that the throttle for engine number 1 was stuck due to the fire. While the throttle for engine number 2 was still operational, the throttle lock caused an imbalance between the engines, gradually tilting the plane to the right. Faced with the rapid spread of fire and control system failures, pilot Candy Club used radar to make a sharp right turn, aiming to reach Miami Airport as quickly as possible. The ATC tower continued to guide the pilot to ensure a safe landing in the shortest time possible. However, due to the rapid spread of the fire, fate had other plans, and the aircraft's control systems ultimately failed completely. The plane was now entirely out of the pilot's control. The fire and smoke spread so rapidly that the two pilots in the cockpit lost consciousness. The ATC controller repeatedly attempted to contact the pilots but received no response. Out of control, the aircraft crashed directly, with the nose hitting the ground first. All 110 people on board the Val Lejet plane tragically lost their lives in this devastating accident. The crash occurred in a vast, treacherous swampy area just a few kilometers from the airport. When the rescue team reached the crash site, they faced significant challenges in locating the Val Lejet plane. The accident happened in a massive and unpredictable swampy area in southern Florida, full of water and mud year-round. This swamp was home to some of the world's largest and most dangerous reptiles, including alligators and crocodiles, making it nearly impossible for the rescue team to reach the site. Despite risking their own lives for weeks in the search for the plane or survivors, all they could find were small fragments of wreckage and pieces of human flesh. The tragedy in the dangerous crocodile-filled swamp left travelers horrified and deeply shook the rescue team. When a rescue team worker found some clothes belonging to a small child, the horrific scene left him so devastated that he decided to quit his job. Families who lost their loved ones in this tragedy couldn't find the bodies, let alone identify the victims. Anger and grief were directed at those responsible for this tragedy, seeking justice. The plane completely disintegrated upon impact. However, after considerable effort, the plane's black box was recovered and the investigation into the horrifying incident began. Checking the cargo manifest, investigators found information about the oxygen generator. The question arose as to why Val Lejet Airlines decided to transport such a dangerous device on a passenger plane. The answer was straightforward. Val Lejet Airlines had delegated the responsibility of checking and loading the cargo to an agency with no specific expertise in identifying hazardous cargo that could be transported on an aircraft. All of this in an effort to save money. The oxygen generators were placed in boxes filled with paper and polyethylene, on which it was falsely written that they were empty. However, all these oxygen generators were expired due to the mistake made by Val Lejet Airlines and the cargo agency. Hundreds of people lost their loved ones, and investigators held 3 agencies responsible for this tragedy: Val Lejet Airlines, Sabre Tech Company, and the FAA, Federal Aviation Administration. Despite a similar incident in 1988, they did not make the installation of smoke detectors in airplanes mandatory. After the investigation, Val Lejet Airlines was banned on June 16, 1996. However, a testament to the power of money and human greed is that this ban was lifted on September 30, 1996, and Val Lejet Airlines resumed operations. Although air travel is generally a very safe means of transportation, we must also remember that the margin for error is very small when cutting costs, and no airline should be allowed to jeopardize the lives of hundreds of thousands of people. Unfortunately, this tragic story serves as a painful reminder of the dangers that can arise when safety is neglected in favor of financial greed. Val Lejet Airlines' relentless pursuit of cost-cutting had devastating consequences, resulting in the loss of 110 precious lives. The subsequent investigation exposed serious flaws in the airline's safety practices as well as negligence on the part of the cargo agency. The fact that Val Lejet Airlines was banned only to resume operations after a temporary suspension highlights the complexities and challenges faced in enforcing stringent regulations in the aviation industry. This tragic event should be an ongoing reminder that safety must always be the top priority in any sector, especially when it involves transporting human lives. The hope is that the lessons learned from this tragedy lead to significant changes and a more vigilant approach to aviation safety, preventing future similar incidents.